Positives. All right. This would seem negative starting it this way, but no disrespect for Joaquin Phoenix. He's a wonderful actor, all the respect in the world. I remember him as a child actor in the movie Space Camp. And I just recently watched 2000 Russell Crowe film Gladiator, where he played the Emperor of Rome. Great performance. He's a great performance. No disrespect whatsoever. Great performance in any movies he's ever done. And he's the brother of the late River Phoenix.
Yeah, and your opinion of him and Johnny Cash?
Oh, yes. Fantastic as Johnny Cash. I forgot to remember. Oh, my God. He's great. Outstanding. The positives are going to be difficult for me.
Not so much for me, because I can name quite a few of them.
Many people, and I'm a big DC fan. Of the comic book fan and the Batman films. There are so many, why his performance as Joker. Okay.
See, I'm going to go right to the movie before I even go to the performance.
You have more positives on Joaquin Phoenix on the film
too, because I'm thinking.
Let's talk about the film first.
1981 New York. They nailed the look of what that looked like.
I wasn't really even paying attention that far. It's like Gotham.
Yeah, they nailed exactly what the city looked like for that time frame. If you've seen any video or other movies from the time frame, so you really thought it was from that era. So a lot of the subplots that took place in that film really were taking place in real life. So there was an authentic feel to it. Where my positive is different from on the lead actor performance is from the mental health perspective, and you saw the level of breakdown. I wouldn't say there's so many diagnoses you could try to make, and it's not appropriate for any amateur to make that kind of diagnosis. But you could see the schizophrenia breaking in. You could see the narcissism breaking in. You can see the bipolar manic breaking in. And there was they're trying to do 3 different ways of trying to describe how a person can just become this psychotic character that is more of a comic book thing. And they try to do it from a realistic perspective. So I appreciate the concept of that.
The one thing that there's no way not to do this. The comparisons of the past Jokers, and last time.
There's so many of them.
Now this is I will admit this is a new recording. We had to work on we were talking about Joker. What we were going to our thoughts on Joker, and you brought up an interesting way to comparison from Cesar Romero of the Batman of the '60s up through Jared Leto. Of all the Jokers, you did a great comparison of each of Cesar Romero.
Oh no, I'm not to be fair, I am not the one who originally came up with
really?
This. I agree.
See somebody made a poster of one word describing each Joker. Somebody made a poster online. I saw that. Really, very interesting.
I think another site did this, but I'm not going to quote it until I remember which one. But I'm not taking original credit for the idea. I agreed with them, so that part I agree with. Cesar Romero, I thought, was the comic book come to life of the television, classic cartoon version of a Joker. It's one of those that you can appeal to young audiences but not take seriously, like he's going to murder and butcher a whole bunch of people in front of you. It was like he liked the game aspect of it, which went up to the nth degree years later, but that's another one.
Now we go to...
Then you go to 1989 with...
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson, and you had a particular view of him.
Oh my God, it was wonderful. He was a standout, the Joker until the next generations, and that years later with Heath Ledger and Jared Leto, Jack Nicholson owned copyrighted. He owned it. I wouldn't say copyrighted legally, but he owned Joker. Everybody, Jack Nicholson. Oh my God, wonderful! He did such a perfect Joker, and how they led in the film, how he became Joker was every time they come up with a Joker, it's another
Because there are 10 different ways that the Joker became the Joker, and they're all lies, and that's one of the things you had to understand.
I wouldn't say all lies.
No, they are.
They do have a similarity, almost similarity in how they became Joker.
That's what the original DC thing was about the Joker, is that all the stories that were told were to a degree a lie. They were never fully true. There were truths within them, but none of them are ever 100% true.
You know, until Joaquin Phoenix's his Joker. They've always said in the comics that Joker never had an origin story. Never a true origin story. There was the Killing Joke. I just recently watched that. And it has a very little, maybe a few minutes. God, you can barely count 3 minutes if you have to combine each clip of that, the Killing Joke.
And oh, by the way, we are not forgetting one of the all-time other great performances of the Joker. Because when I said taking things up to the nth degree on comic humor, to the comic degree, we have to bring up Mark
Hamill. Luke Skywalker's Mark Hamill. He is fantastic. Laugh.
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, see, everyone who's ever performed Joker on screen and television had a laugh, and they were all very good. Mark Hamill. No exception. They all had a good laugh.
I think that the way I had described it was...
Except...
Nicholson was the guy who was in charge, completely ran operations. Heath Ledger was the person who was just mentally completely unstable, and you didn't know if he was going to hug you or stab you 900 million times. Joker was the kind of person you thought was either going to do a practical joke or he was going to try and poison you. And you weren't really sure which one he was going to do at any one time, too. But he did it from a more comedic perspective. I'm still to this day lost as to what Jared Leto, or however you want to say his name, was trying to go for. It just never clicked. And obviously, most people had commented on it.
Jared Leto.
We are leaving out the guy from Gotham because I've only seen him a couple times, so I don't want to...
I did not like whomever they picked.
I don't want to comment on his performance because I only saw it a couple times, so I don't have enough.
Honest to God, did not like. I don't know who the actor was. I don't want to disrespect that actor.
I don't want to say that. I like what the guy did recently, but that's a whole different topic.
The reason why he cannot get any positive from me is because he wasn't memorable. He did not have a stand. Only his face do you see, and he's not a memorable. A memorable portrayal.
That's the problem. It's like it's not awful like Leto was, but it's something you don't even remember. So that's the negative of that.
Now your view on Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal. Let alone the film.
Now the difference between I had with my brother and quite frankly a lot of people, but it's like an 80-20 thing from what I'm seeing online, is I don't think it's an origin story for the Joker because I don't think the whole thing ever took place whatsoever. I do like the theory that the entire time this guy is just a guy in the hospital pretending all of this in his head, because from a psychological perspective, there are people that literally live their entire fictional, delusional lives while in a hospital setting. And I think that's what this entire film was.
You know, but what you just described, and I wish I could remember the episode, how the episode was titled, or the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode, where Sisko's in a mental hospital. And in his mind, he's writing the entire series. In that episode is what you just described. And the doctor's trying to stop him from running. He's running on the walls the whole DS9 story. And
there's a few shows.
And they're physically trying to prevent him from finishing it.
Yeah,
that is what you just described.
Yeah, there are different shows that have taken this aspect about real versus not real a lot of the times. My personal favorite from that concept was an episode from the 6th season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but I know my brother's never saw it, so he has no perspective on what that was. But now, from the ones who believe that it really did take place, except for what they think the ending, because they think the ending was either real or fake, and that's what was the part that most believe. I still love the performance, but for me, it's in the mindset of believing that none of it was real, so therefore I'm never thinking of him as the Joker, so I'm never comparing him to any of the great actors that played the Joker, but I'm comparing him as a guy completely mentally break down, that snaps and becomes this narcissistic, like, horrible person. And let's be clear, I'm not...
Joker's always been basically labeled a homicidal maniac.
Yeah. And I get the concern people have that they were trying... that at the beginning it made it look like it was sympathetic. But I think the movie, during the later course of the movie, made it clear there was nothing to be sympathetic about this guy about. because he just had that much disregard towards
One
life.
thing, and it's really difficult for me to give a positive on this film at all, but I will have to say that there's one line in the ending of the 1989 version between Joker and Batman, and he says, "You idiot, you made me," and Batman says, "No, you made me."
Yeah.
And that is the major plot, the major connection between any Batman and Joker, any film or television or video game, whatever they are portrayed on, is there a strong connection between each other. One would not exist without the other.
And don't get me wrong, I really wish the deleted scene was the final version because it would have completely ended the idea of Batman being at all affiliated with this universe. That would have been a great idea, but I get why they didn't do it.
I found it disturbing. They want to give Joker an origin story. Who they chose for it? He's just Joaquin Phoenix again, another actor in I wouldn't say long, but between the time periods of each Batman movie, a long series, and I'm using the wrong word, long series of different actors who played Joker. You have to compare, and that's the only way. Is it he won Best Actor? How he was chosen for Best Actor. In the list of the nominations, I can see why he was picked for Best Actor. Antonio Banderas, Pain and Glory. Leonardo DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Adam Driver, Marriage Story. Jonathan Pryce, The Two Popes. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I can see why Joaquin Phoenix was chosen.
The only main contender that they were even debating was Adam Driver, and the negative about his performance was, since you didn't see that movie, is...
I don't know Adam Driver is Kylo Ren from Star Wars.
The movie that he was in had a lot of similarities in comparison to a 1970s movie called Kramer vs. Kramer.
I remember that very well.
It felt so similar to that I understand why you wouldn't have given him as great of a performance as others, and that's why he didn't win the nomination. I didn't think it was going to win.
None of these films really, you would have to have been a critic or really enjoy this film, each of these films, to compare Joaquin Phoenix's. Was he deserving of it? Oh my God! You have to compare him to each of these roles I just named.
I wish I'm trying to remember who Jack Nicholson lost to, because I know '89 was the year of Driving Miss Daisy, but I can't for the life of me remember who Best Actor was. I know it was Morgan Freeman.
Yeah. And
he didn't win that year anyway. At least I don't think he won.
But choosing him for best, I was upset. I was kind of upset with that. I don't want to disrespect Joaquin Phoenix, outstanding actor for many years since a childhood. He was a childhood actor, but chosen over these, and I was upset that he won. But looking at this list, yes, I agree with it. I have to agree with it.
Now, you have to remember that Ledger wasn't nominated for Best Actor. He won for Best Supporting Actor because he wasn't on the screen long enough to be considered Best Actor. You have to remember that.
True.
That's why he won the award that year. So,
but the positives of the film,
it's a great. I said you and I have two different positives.
Everybody, when I first wrote up the review of this, whoa, did I get attacked? How dare you? How dare you not give the win to Joaquin Phoenix? And comparing whom he was nominated against, that's the only thing I can give as a positive. His portrayal of Joker is an origin story, and I don't think there should have been an origin story because the comics never bothered to give one all through the comic history.
And as I said, what I loved about it was a great look of the time frame of how messed up mental health was and how somebody like that could have been created.
It was...
Now, if you got to remember New York City for that time frame, you were talking about 4 years removed from Son of Sam Berkowitz. Yeah. So you could see, literally from the same city, how somebody could become this.
Only 1989's Batman did they give Joker an origin story of falling into... He was hit in the mouth.
Yeah, most of them
carved his cheeks. Yeah. He fell into some acid. It changed his color. I think that was the only one that gave an origin story.
Yeah, all of them had different versions of him falling into acid. Two of the comics had it. The cartoon had it.
The comics, but the movies did not.
Correct. The movie-wise, only him dead.
Only Jack Nicholson gave an origin story.
Now, the Leto version of Joker had Harley Quinn fall into the acid, but that wasn't Leto falling into the acid. Yeah. They never explained him at all.
So
So that's probably the most David's going to get on positives. On this.
Yes. I said I don't want to disrespect Joaquin Phoenix, wonderful actor, but as his for the film wise, I didn't even realize it was 1981. My brother's going to give it positives. That's as much as I can give for positives. The negatives. Okay, where do I get started? Number one on the list, I said his age. I'm not sure even how old Joaquin Phoenix honestly is, or it was a makeup job that made him look far older. Yeah. I really don't know. I'd have to look up how old Joaquin Phoenix is. But the key thing that two key things that really gave negatory on this film for me was, okay, spoiler alert if anyone has not seen this. When he approaches Wayne Manor and he encounters a young Bruce Wayne as a child, he's what, maybe 10 or less?
9, somewhere in that time frame.
Look at the age difference between if it's the real Joaquin Phoenix or it's a makeup job. How much they've aged. And the online claims he's about 40 years old in this role. I don't know if that's the real age of Joaquin Phoenix or that's Joker's age.
So roughly a 25 to 30 year age gap between the two actors.
Between you look at this kid and how many years later would take this kid to become Batman. Are you kidding me? How old is Joker going to be when he's now the nemesis of Batman? Oh my God!
Which goes into something I mentioned about this is never about Joker at all, because he's not. But since you brought up Bruce Wayne, it actually brought up one of my biggest negatives about the film, which was in most adaptations, Thomas Wayne was not portrayed as the billionaire, ugly, horrible person that he is in this movie. I get in this movie they were basically, I wouldn't say going full political, trying to compare him to the current president, but that concept of the billionaire New Yorker who just didn't care about anything, that went against the idea of all the things about Thomas Wayne. And unless you believe that the Joker never existed and this all in his head, the reality is that a 9-year-old kid who hasn't been psychologically traumatized at this point, because remember, his parents are not dead yet throughout most of this film, no kid is going to react the way he did to the Joker by letting him touch him without physical, motionless. It's just not realistic from a kid.
Now, the one of the also negative about this film that people are going to say you cannot do is the comparison, and we had just did comparison of the previous Joker film, roles, the portrayals, and the people said you can't compare Joaquin Phoenix. I'm sorry. They're going to do it anyway.
Films are going to get compared all the time.
And it's a okay. Oh, the second biggest negative part is his laugh. I have never heard of a disease, and I looked this up. I think probably everybody did when he said the name of the disease. There's a disease actually that people they laugh.
The disease is
really?
The disease is real. My issue with the portrayal of it in the movie was it was done too often, and it was done too much at key moments.
It's like he's pushing himself to laugh,
but
rather than a Mark Hamill or Jack Nicholson or Heath. They're doing naturally. Where it's whether the disease or it's himself.
No, I mean
he is forcing the laugh. Where the other portrayals it's a natural laugh, like you're crazy.
Right. So no, I think they used it as
a natural laugh.
I think they used it as a MacGuffin to explain the laugh. The problem was the actual disease itself. The person doesn't have any real control as to when they laugh, whereas this person panically, it was just using too many key moments, so it gave the illusion that he had control.
You know what seems like? If this was a fake name disease, I would think they would try to make a remake of Tourette's.
Yeah.
If Tourette's is foul language, this is the laughing version of Tourette's.
The other main negative that a lot of people had commented on when it came to this movie is the notion that in the beginning they created a sympathetic portrayal as to why he committed such acts that he did. And while they did ratchet it up so it can no longer be viewed as justified, in the beginning it did give the appearance that his initial violent actions were all considered okay. And that obviously is both a negative reflection on reality and on people with
Now
mental health.
how he was treated. Now there are two different. Now he's not okay. He's not having people follow him. I was strongly comparing him. You're going to give sympathy to someone who's going to become a homicidal maniac. Just the personality alone, I probably wrongly compared it to Charles Manson. Are you going to give this psycho sympathy? This guy who now Joker committed murders. Manson did ordered.
Yeah.
He had followers,
Yeah.
but it's the It's the psycho personality. The psycho nutcase, a personality that you're going to be sympathetic to?
I think what that is from a realistic perspective is that people just latch on to whatever is different than the norm. And I think that's what they were trying to go at with this. Now, obviously, there are some realistic issues that took place there. One of them is he would not have survived the car crash with the police at all. And certainly wouldn't have gotten up and did a whole standing thing.
Now,
that took
also
place.
before we began recording this, just a moment ago, you were also bringing up about Robert De Niro's portrayal and it was like a vague rip with Johnny Carson's Tonight Show.
I don't know if he was ripping. I don't know if he was.
But he was also ripping someone
I don't know
else.
if he was going for Letterman or Carson, but they definitely took a lot of homages to another Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese
which
movie.
was called The King of Comedy.
Yeah, The King of Comedy. So it took a lot of aspects of that movie and became its main final plot. So I don't know if homage or ripoff is the most appropriate word there, but it was not original by any stretch of the imagination. So I do get annoyed when they take the concept of this is so original, this is so authentic, where you're taking so much from other material. So that needs to calm down too. So it's sort of like it was a great portrayal in my view, but the idea of thinking this is the greatest thing you've ever seen, that you just got to pump the brakes on, because that I do disagree
They
with.
gave his origin just out of a mental situation, rather than he was created by a superhero. Batman caused it. That's what's missing. That his origin was caused by something, let alone how the city of New York or how people treat you. You know, there are so many real people that have been put. No, I have to use a Revenge of the Nerd speech. Put down, held back. Mm-hmm. Every negative word you could think of. That's how his origin is. Where the most any other origin, he was, whether he married and lost his wife, or his mother. He was helping taking care of his mother. It's a mental origin, where in the '89 it was a physical origin, and people were bugged by how the comics never really gave, like with the exception of the Killing Joke comic, never gave him an origin story, and I was also turned off by that. And just it was a mental health rather than physical origin, and I think the physical origin it's more logical than a mental health.
Well, the movie did try to explain both, that physical became mental. Because basically, I think what they were trying to say was,
agreed.
as a kid, he was basically beaten up so badly and hospitalized and got chained up.
Okay.
That the physical became
When you brought up the beat up situation, here's the third big key negative I found, was the subway attack. Where there's, spoiler again, that 3 Wall Street guys dressed in suits beat him up.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a big negative on that. No, I have never been on. I said people, they're going to say to me, "Well, David, you've never been on a New York City subway. How can you know who takes the subway? You're going to tell me Wall Street guys in suits take a subway? I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to believe that for 1 second.
I have a different issue with the subway scene, and it's not that, because New York subways have had every walk of life, famous and infamous, and regular people all the time on.
Wealthy people will take a subway.
Yes, but here's
or
the
make
difference.
A lot of money.
Here's the thing I don't believe when it came to the subway scene. It's the lack of people on the subway.
True.
I have been on the subways in New York and Philadelphia and Chicago, St. Louis, and I think a couple other cities, Washington. One thing that I've never seen on a New York subway, an empty subway. I have never seen a train car where it's just 4 people on it. That's the part that was unrealistic to me.
There's so many elements that the people that also were turned off by. And also when he got attacked outside. holding a sign for a store, and he chased after them. He was beaten up by them with a wooden sign, and people were turned off by that scene. No.
I get where they were going at, that he was physically weak and he was being beaten up by a gang. That they're trying to show how physically weak that he was in the beginning of the movie to try and indicate that this is not like other, what they call comic book villains, of being a strong physical presence.
You know, looking back now, the one person that portrayed Joker, and he did, I quickly, you know, most people didn't quickly like him, was Jared Leto in Suicide Squad. And comparing to this Joker, and I do not, again, want to disrespect Joaquin Phoenix, Jared Leto did a far better performance, even though it wasn't much on film. This is an origin story. And people were arguing me, when I did a written review, argued to me, this is pre-Joker, pre-homicidal Joker.
Right, this is not a guy in charge at all. This is the guy before he
Okay, my mistake is pre-homicidal. I'm jumping the gun that he's already a killer.
Yeah.
Well, he did kill people in self-defense. Yeah. But you sympathize with Joker.
The best way to argue it is that it's basically like the Smallville version of Superman before he became Superman.
And I never watched Smallville.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. But I don't think it was the greatest either. But again, I understand how others think that it was. Now, there are people that will always indicate each of the actors as the greatest ever, and each of them are entitled to that opinion. And I do hate the negativity that it comes when people try to indicate that somebody else is on that list and they just instantly get attacked. That does bug me.
Comparison really makes it does make. I say enemies. Comparison is unfair, but it's going to happen.
Right.
If you like this video, please subscribe, comment, like or dislike, and thank you for watching.